Welcome, everyone, to the Dynasty Evaluation Show. We are here to do a Dynasty Evaluation show about the NFL Draft. We're going to evaluate some draft picks today. We're going to go across the board from team to team, alphabetical order, talk about, what they picked, what they needed, what they picked, and what we thought about their draft. JT, the draft just ended on Saturday, and it was instantaneously all the drafts started, all the rookie drafts started. What do you think, man? How have you been?
Yeah, I had drafts get kicked right off immediately the next day. So I've got like 3 or 4 in the works already. I've got a couple more that start this weekend. A few people were like, "Oh, can we wait like at least a week?" Because John, we do this a lot. So I always forget the people that have not really been up on the draft and really haven't done any research. They're just waiting for the draft to happen. I'm like, oh, those people are going to be in big trouble if they're in a league that starts right away on Sunday or Monday for their draft. So I'm in a couple leagues that are like, people were begging, can we get one more week so I can actually look at some of these guys and where they're going? Because, not everybody's doing round the clock mock drafts in the offseason like we are.
Yeah, analysis, all that kind of stuff. We've been doing it all summer long, so all winter long, ever since the Super Bowl. So let's get this show on the road.
McGlynn is in. I repeat, McGlynn is in. Let the fun begin. This is the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with your host, John McGlynn.
Was that Herms?
He got them guests on the Rolodex, stopping by to talk about some Dynasty Superflex. Everybody, commish is in. It's time to sit down to listen to John McGlynn. Yo, who we trading, who we fading, who we getting off the squad. Knowledge never overrated, playing for number one. Hey, McGlynn is in. It's time to let the fun begin. It's the Commissioner Evaluation Podcast with John McGlynn.
I like my rookie draft so far, but we're going to talk about the NFL draft today. What happened, how it panned out, all the good stuff that did happen during the NFL draft. What we're going to do is there's some professionals out there, guys that are in tune to the entire NFL across the board. Shad Reuter is a draft analyst for NFL.com. He published his draft grades on the 26th, which was a couple days ago, right just post-draft. So he gave every team a grade across the board. We're going to go in alphabetical order, talk about what his grades were, read the picks out, and then talk about his analysis compared to our analysis, what we thought. What do you think about that, JT?
I think that's great. Let's do it.
Let's do it. So, first of all, we got a grade of A- to the Arizona Cardinals. What was their team needs before the draft, JT?
Yeah, so coming in, team needs, according to NFL.com, so some sites might have had them slightly different, but these are the ones we're going off to for the people at home. Team needs coming in were offensive line, wide receiver, edge, D-line, and cornerback, with quite a big emphasis on needing to either help O-line or defense. A lot of defense the Cardinals were needing.
Yes, and what they ended up getting was in round 1, pick 16, defensive tackle Walter Nolan, Mississippi. Round 2, Will Johnson, cornerback from Michigan. Round 3, Jordan Birch, edge, defensive end from Oregon. Round 4, linebacker Cody Simon from Ohio State. Round 5, cornerback Denzel Burke. Round 6, a guard, Hayden Connor. And round 7, a safety, Kitten Crawford. What do you, as a defensive player, because they pretty much went defense and that's pretty much about it, minus an offensive lineman. What do you think about this Arizona Cardinals draft?
Yeah, Cardinals need to go D. We knew that. They've just really struggled. They lost some guys. Walter Nolan, absolute beast. Some people had him as either the second or third best defensive tackle in a loaded defensive tackle group. So I thought Walter Nolan there was phenomenal at 16. They've been bad at stopping the run. Got to take care of the interior. And I think, John, I'm just going to say it now. I think the Eagles winning the Super Bowl with how dominant they were on the defensive front really changed the draft strategies for a lot of teams in this draft. This was a very talented defensive group in the draft, and you saw teams go heavy defense and heavy defense up front. As you know, in the NFL, everyone likes to copy whoever's winning. So you're going to see a lot of teams try to copy and do what the Eagles have done. extremely difficult. Easy to say you're going to copy them, but like they have drafted phenomenally. So some of these other teams trying to make that work. So Nolan, I thought, was phenomenal. Will Johnson, I tell you what, they've actually been a team lately who said, you know what, we're willing to take guys that are injured or guys that fall because of injury concerns because of value. We'll just take the value. Will Johnson, second round, number 47 overall, pre-draft without the injury. A lot of people had him top 15, maybe even top 10.
Mm-hmm.
So that's an absolute steal for them in the second round. Jordan Birch is a guy on the edge I like a lot. You always need pressures from the edge. Third round, liked him. The two picks I really liked were Cody Simon, inside, outside linebacker, can do a little bit of both in the fourth round out of Ohio State, and then Denzel Burke, also out of Ohio State in the fifth round. Two guys on that national champion defense. I mean, that was one of the more dominant defenses I've seen in college in a long time for Ohio State. Them and Michigan's team 2 years ago, those teams, again, while there were some awesome offensive players on those teams, the defense is dominated for those teams. So I think both those guys didn't necessarily have the exact size or athleticism that gets you drafted super high on day 1 or 2. But two guys that know how to play football at a championship caliber, I think those are really nice picks in round 4 and 5.
Arizona did a nice job, A- grade, like I said. The next up was Atlanta Falcons. A lot of people are not happy with the Falcons draft. I'm not really sure. I don't, they did pretty well, but we got a B- grade here for the Atlanta Falcons. What was their team needs before the draft started?
So it feels like every year Atlanta needs edge rushers. It's just every year it feels like they draft an edge rusher and they just keep needing more. So that was the number one need for them was edge. D-line, again, up front guys, they needed that help. Cornerback as well. O-line, and then safety. So you can see this is a team who's really concentrated on offense the last couple of years. Everyone was saying they needed to actually have a defensive draft for once.
Well, they got it. They got round 1, Jalen Walker. Also round 1, James Pierce. These are guys we talked about on our, draft show we had last week. So your two good picks. Round 3, Xavier Watts. Round 4, Billy Bowman. Round 7, Jack Nelson, offensive tackle. So, how did it pan out for the Falcons? Because why am I hearing so much? They nailed the edge. I don't understand why was this a problem for these guys?
Yeah, this is an interesting one. Some people had Jalen Walker in the top 10. He's a guy that can play off ball, but also can play edge. Where he's going to play exactly for them with the makeup for them, you would think he would be more of an edge rusher than an off ball linebacker. But that was a little bit of the question mark with him. James Pierce from Tennessee is a guy who has all the talent in the world. I think people are real nervous that he could be one of those bust players. And I think the fact that the Falcons have had so many of those guys, I think gets people even more nervous about him, even though I think he's a good player. They traded up to get him. They got back into the first round to get Pierce. They needed to go edge, so they went edge. Whether people were not happy with the trade back up in the first round, giving up draft capital next year was part of the reason for the B-. I think that's probably why the draft grade was down a little bit. Not that they don't like Pierce the player, but I think people thought, moving the third, doing some of the other things, what they had to give up to do it was a little bit iffy. Xavier Watts, we just talked about it a little bit before with Will Johnson. Xavier Watts in Notre Dame was one of my favorite safeties in this class, especially in not a really great safety class, wasn't really deep. Him dropping all the way to the third round, pick number 96. I know I was looking at pre-draft stuff, and there were a lot of people talking about maybe even the Colts taking him in the first round or top of the second round if he got to him. He got all the way to the third. I thought that was a phenomenal pick in the third round. And then I actually liked Billy Bowman out of Oklahoma, another safety. They need safety help on the back end to help Bates. Jesse Bates has been phenomenal since coming over from the Bengals, but they needed help around him. I like the draft. I don't know. The B- to me, I feel like it should be a little better than that. Obviously going to depend on how the edges work out. But I do like both those edges and both those safeties. They added a 7th round offensive tackle. We'll see if he makes the squad. So maybe the grade is for trading up, losing some things, and only really getting 4 players in this draft. Maybe volume was part of the reason for the B- grade or draft grade.
People get really butthurt when you trade away future picks in the NFL. That's one thing that I did find out. So That's anytime you can pick up an offensive lineman late in the draft too. I mean, sometimes some of these guys are throwaway, but some of these guys just pan out, and everybody needs linemen all the time. We always talk about how you got to stack the box. You got to stack the box. Offense, defensive side of the ball. Go ahead. There's not much offense to talk about in these first two picks, but quality picks as far as I'm concerned. So,
well, John, and you, like you said, with the O-line, with the way the practice squad works, getting some of these guys late where you can move them down to your practice squad and let them learn. Sometimes these guys work out pretty well for you.
Yeah. So next one is the Baltimore Ravens. I got a grade of an A here. Draft. What was their team needs before the draft started?
So coming in, team needs, top ones were O-line, cornerback, safety, D-line, and edge. Pretty good defense last year. Secondary struggled a bit as a lot of teams moved the ball on them through the air if they didn't get sacks. So I think, kind of making sure they shored up that secondary, I think, was one of the top priorities for the Ravens.
Yeah, for round one, safety Malachi Starks, a fan favorite. Another fan favorite that kind of fell in this draft in round two, Mike Green, edge rusher from Marshall. Round three, offensive tackle. We all love offensive tackles. Emory Jones from LSU. Round four, linebacker, Teddy Buchanan from California. Round five, another offensive tackle, Carson Vincent from Alabama A&M. Round six, cornerback, Behal Cohn from Western Michigan. Round six, they got a kicker, Tyler Loop. Just going to be transitioned from kicker on the Ravens. We knew that was coming from all the reports about their starting kicker, but they drafted one. Another round six, wide receiver LeJohntay Webster from Colorado, one of your boys, and then round six also a defensive tackle, Aeneas Peebles from Virginia Tech. Another round six cornerback, Robert Longerbeam from Rutgers, and round seven another offensive lineman, Garrett Dellinger from LSU. So they had a lot of picks in this draft. Even before the draft started, we knew they were going to get some improvements across the board. I thought they did very well on defense. As I was watching this draft, I seen a lot of guys fall. What do you think about this draft, JT?
Tell you what, as a Steelers fan, I'm always upset with the Ravens draft because I feel like they draft so well. I feel like every year you just watch it. They don't move up. They don't do anything crazy, but they always seem to get some of the best players dropped to them at their spot without them having to make any moves. It's like guys just fall into their lap. I'm just jealous. Honestly, I'm just jealous because they draft so well every year. They have very few just huge swings and misses. Almost everything they do, turns out at least guys are quality starters for them. Malachi Starks, again, safety, very shallow class. A lot of people had him as the top safety in the class, depending on whose rankings you were looking at. He was my top safety in this class, dropping to 27 and now pairing him with Kyle Hamilton. God, it's sickening. It's so nice for the Ravens. They got exactly what they needed, and they got him at 27, where a lot of early mocks had him going in the top 15 and possibly going 13 to the Dolphins. So the fact that they waited and got him about 14, 15 picks later than most people thought is awesome. Mike Green, Marshall, edge, led the nation in sacks last year, fell because of off the field concerns. He's had a couple allegations against him. Has never officially been arrested or anything, but he got kicked off of a couple teams in college because of allegations. He slipped a little bit because of that. This was a guy people were talking about 2 months ago, John, as a top 15 pick.
Yeah.
People thought the Falcons were going to take him if he got to the Falcons at 15, 16. Everybody was talking about him. And then as things wore on, they kind of got off on him. Kind of moved on, and some teams were like, we don't know if we want to mess with it. Well, here come the Ravens, round 2, pick 59. It's not even like they had to get him in the early second round. Sit there and wait, and he gets right to him. I think that was just two phenomenal picks. Then Emory Jones, nice offensive tackle from LSU in round 3, really nice. Teddy Buchanan in round 4, that was an okay pick for me. I don't love him. Carson Vincent, Alabama A&M's a project in the 5th round. I tell you what, Tyler Loop from Arizona, I thought was a really nice pick with everything going on with Justin Tucker. So I thought that was a nice selection because they actually loaded in the 6th round. They ended up with 5 6th-round picks, so they had a little bit of luxury to take a kicker there. I tell you what, my favorite one, especially fantasy-wise, LeJohntay Webster, like you said, out of Colorado, former Florida Atlantic Owl, led the nation in receiving before transferring to Colorado. He's just a tough kid. He can kick return. He can punt return. He's got solid speed. He can play the slot. I just think he's one of those guys. Is he ever going to be an absolute fantasy bust out for you in fantasy? Probably not. But could he make some hay in this wide receiver group for the Ravens? I think so. So he's a guy that I'm definitely targeting in fantasy drafts. If I have a deep draft, I'm taking him late, or he's one of those guys I'm going to look at possibly free agent as soon as your free agent waiver wire opens. He's a guy I would throw a couple bucks on and hold on to and see if he can make his way up the roster and through the depth chart here in the summer.
It's not like they're stacked at wide receiver,
That's exactly my point. I just think he's a guy, 6-round wideouts are such hard to judge. Almost none of them ever turn out and do anything for a team. But if I'm taking a chance on a guy, to me, this is the type of team that he can make an impact on and he could actually find his way onto the field.
Yes, a couple more picks then, but now we get to my Buffalo Bills, JT. B+ grade for the Bills. I wanted to see him get some wide receivers, to maybe something good that they can, some shiny weapons on the offensive side of the ball. But what did they really need?
So coming in defense, they lost a ton of people this offseason, kind of all over the place. They definitely needed some defensive help. Cornerback, defensive line with the top two needs, wide receiver, edge, and safety.
Well, they got a cornerback in Maxwell Harrison. You saw he was shaking everybody's hand at the draft the entire time. He was super happy, and then he got drafted, and guy broke down on it. It was so cool to see these guys so excited about on draft day. It was a beautiful moment for the NFL draft. It's why we watch the draft itself for guys like that. All the celebrations were awesome, but his was just it hit home watching the draft that day. So round 2, defensive tackle, TJ Sanders from South Carolina. Round 3, edge, Landon Jackson from Arkansas. Round 4, defensive tackle, Deion Walker from Kentucky. Round 5, cornerback, Jordan Hancock, Ohio State. Round 5, tight end, Jackson Hawes from Georgia Tech. Round 6, Dorian Strong, cornerback from Virginia Tech. We heard his name a couple times in the pre-draft process. Round 6, offensive tackle, Chase Lunt from Connecticut. Round 7, wide receiver, Caden Prather from Maryland. Another guy that's you heard a little bit about, nothing crazy, but his name thrown around, just a flyer wide receiver at the end of the draft. How do you think these Bills did, JT?
Yeah, I think it was solid. I think, again, here's another one. They moved up in the second round to get TJ Sanders. I think that probably nicked their grade just a bit. Teams analysts don't usually like when you do that unless you're getting a guy that they think is an absolute stud. They needed defensive help. They needed defensive help bad. Harrison was that late riser. Guy absolutely crushed the Senior Bowl, went to the combine and absolutely blew everybody away with his athleticism. He ran a blazing fast 40 time. So he was a guy that was moving quickly up boards. So that was a nice pick. TJ Sanders needs to get more consistent, but I think definitely helps on that defensive tackle front. South Carolina had a really good defense all year. Landon Jackson, kind of underrated guy, round 3. People were talking to him. I saw him getting mocked late first round, possibly to the Bills or the second round of the Bills. So the Bills waiting and actually getting him in the third round, I think is very nice. Nice edge rusher out of Arkansas. Real big guy too. So, he's not an edge that's 235, 240. He's like 280. Like, the guy's big, so he has the beef up front, but he can still play the run and bring the heat. Deion Walker was one of my favorite guys, just monster. 6'7", 335. Dude is just huge. Biggest question mark for him was the motor and whether he can get low enough in the NFL to be productive. There was games in college he looked awesome for Kentucky, and then there were other games where like teams just took him completely out of it because he just stood straight up and they just drove him and he didn't do anything. So the big question for him is he going to play nose tackle? Can he get low enough to play nose tackle, or is he going to have to play more of like a 5-tech defensive end where he's playing like shading the tackle and he's kind of pressing the line down and using his size, getting his hands up to knock down passes, that type of thing. But he's a project, a little bit of a project, but a guy I liked a lot in college. Really liked what I saw out of him.
Good rotational player, yeah.
Exactly. To get two guys, Walker and Jackson could eventually be their kind of bigger edge rushers with speed guys outside them. Sanders is a guy that can definitely fill the hole up the middle. You put Sanders and Walker together. They've got Ed Oliver there still. That's kind of their pass rusher from the inside. Harrison, I thought, again, they needed cornerback help. Dorian Strong, I was a little surprised he got all the way to the 6th. I thought he would go more like the 4th round. So I actually thought that was a nice little steal for them at cornerback. And Jordan Hancock, another one of those guys that played for Ohio State, championship team. Everybody wants to see them go offense with Josh Allen, or especially for fantasy purposes, but they needed defense, so they went defense heavy. Took a flyer on their last pick, Caden Prather out of Maryland. The guy was a pretty good, productive player in college. Originally went to West Virginia and then transferred to Maryland. Nice little sneaky pick. They've thrown some wideouts late. None of them really hit the last couple of years. Maybe Prather changes that. Maybe he makes his way into the lineup eventually for the Bills.
Yeah, this is a good draft. I mean, they got team needs. We got a day 1 grade of A-, day 2 grade of B, and day 3 grade of B is what he gives them here. The analyst gives them. So, I can see that. Like we said before, when these guys make moves and trade and lose draft capital in either in this draft or in next year's draft, people get real salty about that kind of stuff. So it doesn't bother me at all.
Unless they love the guy that you came up to get. In most circumstances, the analysts just aren't going to like it unless you just absolutely moved up and stole a guy that there's just very rarely are they going to give you much credit for moving up.
Yep. So Carolina Panthers with a B- grade here. When they needed some defensive ends, they needed some wide receivers. They needed a little bit of everything, and they got a little bit of everything. In round 1, they got Ted McMillan, wide receiver. Everybody knows his name. He's probably the most popular wide receiver besides Travis Hunter in this entire draft. So everybody knows him. Even people that don't really watch football heard his name on TV just because it's out there all the time. Round 2, edge, Nick Scorton, Texas A&M, another well-known player. Round 3, an edge, Princely, I can't remember.
I always mess his name up.
Yeah.
Amun Melen. It's the way all the letters go together. I can't ever get them out without just jumbling them in my mouth.
Yes. And then round 4, one of my C2C players, Travis Etienne, in round 4.
Trevor Etienne. I say Travis every time I go to say him because I don't want to say Travis, and that because I tell myself not to. I say Travis. So Trevor Etienne, the brother of Travis Etienne, who plays for the Jags.
Yeah, round 4, safety, Lathan Ransom from Ohio State, another championship caliber guy. Round 5, there's a tackle, Cam Jackson from Florida. Also in round 5, tight end Mitchell Evans from Notre Dame, a guy who last year when the season started, like he was one of the top tight ends in the nation, kind of fell out of glory a little bit, but he's still a good tight end. I think Notre Dame tight ends just come out and they're more blockers than they are receivers. Is the problem. They're so good at blocking, they just get stuck blocking all the time. That kind of sucks, but. Round 6, wide receiver Jimmy Horn Jr. from Colorado. JT, how did the Panthers do? I mean, the first 2 picks I think were fantastic, but how did the rest of the draft go? Because, they needed a running back, but I think they needed something maybe a little better than Trevor Etienne, even though I like Trevor Etienne. I think they needed something a little better, but they had bigger needs than that. So I got a day 1 grade of C, which taking Ted McMillan to get a C grade. I'm not really sure how that works out, but day 2, A-, and day 3 grade of B+. How did the draft go?
Yeah, I know a lot of people were not necessarily happy with the Ted McMillan going there. They felt like that was too high for a wide receiver for a team that needs a million other things.
Yes.
Fantasy-wise, I love it. I think Ted's great there. They need a clear-cut number 1. Bryce Young, still developing, really made some nice strides at the end of last year. So that's definitely got to have you, fantasy wise, got to make you feel good that he started to look like he was putting it together, and now he gets a big wide receiver. A lot of people have made the comparisons to Drake London.
Mm-hmm.
That's a guy that a lot of people say he's like. They say he's kind of a poor man's Mike Evans. Obviously, two tough guys to live up to, but I think I watched him a ton in college at Arizona. Guy's really, really impressive. Didn't always have the best quarterback play, but still was fantastic. So I think it's a good pick, even if you think 8 is a little high at wide receiver. Nick Scorton, a dude who was an absolute beast as a 17-year-old at Purdue, led the Big Ten in sacks, eventually transferred to Texas A&M, beefed up a little bit at Texas A&M, and didn't really get as many sacks. It'll be interesting to see what he tries to play at in the NFL. Play closer to like 255, 260, and then got up to about 280 at one point. So it's going to be interesting to see what he does. Ton of ability for him. I really think that's a sneaky pick in the second round. And then Princely in the third, people were up and down on him. I actually like him out of Ole Miss. That was a good line. I think his motor, sometimes people are like, is he going to play hard all the time? I like him. In the third round, to me, I thought that was a decent value. As you saw, his day 2 grade was an A- with Scorton and Princely as the edges, which I actually agreed. I thought both Scorton could have been a first rounder. Princely could have been a second rounder. So getting both those guys around later, I thought was really nice. Etienne, he's a smaller guy, a speed back. He could prove me wrong, but this is a guy I don't think ever ran for more than 750 or 800 yards in a college season. A little bit smaller dude, decent pass blocker, and has got pretty good. He could easily be a third down back in the NFL. I just thought he was kind of a weird pick there with all the other running backs. I thought they would maybe go someone big. They already have a fast, speedy guy in Chuba Hubbard. They already have another fast, speedy, lanky guy in Jonathan Brooks, who they took in the early last year. So to me, if they were going to go with someone else, it was surprising me they took another small, fast, speedy guy and didn't go someone a little bit bigger with a little meat on him. I thought like a Damian Martinez here would have been awesome. I thought Cam Scatabo would have been a nice pick here. There's a lot of guys so it's not that I don't like Etienne. There was other guys in that fourth round right there that I thought would have been a better pick. And that really started the run of running backs in the fourth round. So they really had their choice of a lot of guys outside of the top 5 or 6 in the beginning of that fourth round. And the fact that they went with him was a little bit surprising. So to me, that knocked down that grade a bit. Ransom, safety, move around a lot. I think that's a nice pick. They need help at safety. Another Colorado guy, Jimmy Horn Jr. in the 6th round. Again, like I just talked about with Webster, I think Jimmy Horn can make this team and do some really. He was injured a lot last year, but a lot of speed. Guy is a really good receiver. Was before Travis Hunter got there, he was their number 1 guy. So really like Jimmy Horn late, and then Mitch Evans, like you said. Notre Dame just didn't throw the ball. He just didn't get any targets. He was a really, really highly rated tight end last year, and they didn't do anything with him but have him block. Now, the question is, in the NFL, as a 5th rounder, is he more Tommy Tremble, another Notre Dame guy, or is he more Jonte Sanders, the guy they took last year out of Texas? I think Evans could be both. To me, he's underrated. And this is a sneaky good pick in the 5th because I think he can block, but I also do think he has decent receiving skills that can be better in the NFL.
That's what I'm thinking. If you already have one of each, you have just a road blocker tight end in Tommy Tremble, who is he's pretty much having like an extra offensive lineman on your team. And then Jatavian Sanders really kind of shined before he got hurt last year. I like Mitchell Evans a lot, but this draft capital in the 5th round to pick 25 kind of he fell so much because last year I'm a Notre Dame guy, that, and I get starry-eyed over Notre Dame guys maybe a little bit too much, but I thought for sure he'd be one of the top couple tight ends. But man, a little bit of fall from grace there for
at the beginning of the year he was ranked a lot higher. It was one of those situations where we saw maybe one of the best seasons of all time out of tight end college production.
Right.
Guys were setting records left and right. We had a guy like Mason Taylor who broke every tight end record ever at LSU, and people were like, oh, his numbers kind of suck. Well, they didn't suck. They were really good. It's just the two or three guys ahead of them had unworldly numbers. You do not see tight ends catching 100 passes for 1,000 yards and double-digit touchdowns in college. At least you didn't until Brock Bowers. And then all of a sudden you see Harold Fannin does it. Tyler Warren does it this last year. So it was just one of those years where a ton of guys had huge production. So the guys that did it, which is usually a little more typical in college, those guys kind of got ignored because there was so many other guys with hype stats.
Yeah, Mitchell Evans had 43 targets for 421 yards. Nothing spectacular. 3 touchdowns.
43 targets. There was, I think, 10 guys that had more catches than he had targets.
Yeah,
so
right.
It's just that's a tough one.
Notre Dame's a running team. They play defense. That's
especially this last year. They really ran the rock a lot.
Yeah, so it is what it is. But Day 1 grade C, day 2 grade A minus, day 3 grade B. So I don't know. Ted McMillan, even though maybe the NFL doesn't like him, like you said before, but it's, man, I don't get it. I think they just wanted these guys to take defensive end right from the get go.
Jalen Walker was the guy a lot of people thought they were taking at 8.
Yeah.
A lot of people thought they should have won Jalen Walker, and they didn't win tight end. You knew a lot of people. A lot of people don't like when you take offensive players outside of QB inside the top 10.
Next one, we get to the Bears. B+ for the Chicago Bears. We're from Chicago area. We all have friends who are Bears fans. My Facebook, my Twitter, all the stuff who are Bears fans. We're like, what the hell? And then round 2 came. Well, okay, we'll just first of all, what was their team needs before we get started here? Because we have a lot to unpack on the Bears.
Yeah, team needs originally were offensive line. Everybody thought they were going to go line, but they did a really nice job in free agency and making some trades. So O-line became a little less pressing need, even though that was probably originally their biggest need. D-line, they've gone D-line a couple times and edge, but they just haven't had a lot of guys that have stuck. Running back was a big one, and then safety and tight end. So those are the ones that NFL.com had them listed as bigger needs.
Well, right from the get-go, pick 1. They surprised a lot of people. We had them in our draft last week. 2 weeks ago, we did a mock draft on our show. Or last week, we did a mock draft on the show. And actually, Colson Loveland was pick number 10 to the Bears from, I'm not sure who had that pick, but, it was in our mock draft. And Colson Loveland was the pick from Michigan. So, not a big surprise to us, but to people who don't aren't weirdos in the offseason and just do nothing but talk about football, they were like, who the hell is Colson Loveland? Why didn't we get, why didn't we get the tight end from Penn State? Why didn't we get this, that? Why did we get a defensive player? Why didn't we get a defensive end? Across the board, they were just unhappy about not having the guy, anybody else besides Colson Loveland because they weren't familiar with his name. So that, and on top of that, they traded back, and then bam, Luther Burden. Instead, people were like, we need a running back. Luther Burden went pick number, that was their round 2 pick, or the first of their second round picks anyway, was Luther Burden, who you love, wide receiver from Missouri. They had a second, we had 3 second round picks. Number 56, first of all, Luther Burden was number 39. Number 56, they had an offensive tackle, Ozzie Trapillo from Boston College. A lot of people are happy about. Another round 2 pick, number 62, defensive tackle, Shamir Turner from Texas A&M. And then they got in the 4th round linebacker, Ruben Hippolyte from Maryland. Round 5, they got a cornerback, Zach Frazier from UTSA, Texas San Antonio. And round 6, another guard, Luke Newman. You can't go with Michigan State. Anytime Big Ten, Big Ten, Wisconsin, Michigan State offensive linemen show up in these drafts, I'm super happy because I know they're getting somebody good. Round 7, running back, Kyle Managai from Rutgers. People are saying that he is going to possibly get the early down back job, So day 1 grade of A-, day 2 grade of B+, day 3 grade of C, just because I think the unfamiliarity with or what people expected, I'm not really sure. The A- for Colson Loveland in -1, in round 1, if the Bears see something they don't like in Cole Kmet and they move it on, Colson Loveland was a lot of people's number 2 or number 3 tight end in this draft. So I'm not really sure why the NFL would be mad about it. But it's an A-, not an A+ or straight A. It's almost a B. But what do you think of what the Bears did here? Because I'm just not sure what people say, the cliche, too many mouths to feed, all that kind of stuff. But it's a good problem to have when you have all these talented players on the opposite side of the ball. The Bears is an underrated defense. They played very well. They got a couple key role players in this draft also. What do you think about what the Bears did here?
I liked it. I know all my friends were wanting GT at 10 to the Bears, which would have been great, but he went early to the Raiders. So, he went to, 6 to the Raiders. So it happens. Loveland. So I know the big knock on Loveland is you look at the stats and you're like, how do you take him over a guy like Warren who had 100 catches, 1,000 yards, all that? Like, well, Warren was a 5th-year breakout. He was pretty much his team's only offensive weapon outside of their running backs for Drew Allard to throw to, and they use him a million different ways to get him touches. Loveland played on one of the worst offenses in the nation this year for Michigan. If you go back and actually watch the highlight tape, his highlight tape is him running great routes and the ball being overthrown over his head or into his feet. So he was a breakout early on. If you went into the rankings last year coming into this season, Tyler Warren wasn't even on anyone's list. Colson Loveland was number 1. So that's where I think the Bears went with. They went with a guy that's been the long-term number one, highest upside guy from the beginning, as opposed to a guy who broke out his last year. Now, why I like Tyler Warren, and we'll get to him in a bit, I think that's what they went with Loveland. I think, and here's the deal. Everyone's like, you got Cole Kmet. Why are you taking Loveland? Ben Johnson loves to run 12 personnel. He loves to run 2 tight ends. Loves it. I think Loveland and Kmet are going to play a ton together. I think he thinks that Loveland's going to be more of his receiving threat, where Kmet's going to be more of their blocker. But I assume both of them are going to play a ton. Luther Burden, what can I say? First round talent, number one wide receiver in the country, coming out of high school in East St. Louis in Illinois. Went to Mizzou. If he could have came out after a sophomore year, I think he's a top 20 pick. Had a down year last year. He had a few injuries, sick a couple games. He also had a starting quarterback, was dealing with injuries all season. Couldn't get him in the football. People dropped on him because they're like, oh, can he really run routes in the NFL, or do they have to like manufacture touches? Well, Missouri had to manufacture touches for him, not because of Burden, but because of other people. I think people misread that. I think this is an absolute freaking steal at 39. I think it's an absolute steal. I was rooting for it. I wanted to see Burden go to a team I liked. Now he's on the Bears. I already told my girlfriend, get the order ready. You're buying me a Luther Burden Bears jersey for Christmas this year. It's happening. So that's great. I thought it was phenomenal. I know people are like, oh, we have more needs. We already took Roma Dunze last year. We already have DJ Moore. Well, they lost Keenan Allen. And, you know, I think Odunze is going to be good, but I think who they took Odunze top 10 last year, I think Burden's better than Odunze personally. So I think this is a value pick. I think they went talent over everything else. I think Burden is going to be phenomenal. Hey, and you just did all that for Caleb Williams, the number one pick in the draft last year. Give him everything you can around him. Give him everything. Why not? Why not add a Loveland? Why not add a Burden? Is it going to be great for fantasy purposes? I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe there are too many guys and none of these guys have a great season. But I think there's a chance that all of them are going to have really good years. Trapillo, they always need O-line help. I thought it was a great pick in the second round. Shamar Turner, that Texas A&M defensive line was just absolutely talented as could be. Probably the most talented defensive line in the entire nation. They didn't always play like it, but man, they had a lot of talented guys. So they've needed defensive tackle help. They've tried to do it the last couple of drafts. Hasn't really worked out. I like both those picks. So I thought that they gave them a B+ second round grade, day 2 grade. To me, Burden, Turner, and Trapillo, to me, that's an A. That's an A, borderline A+ for me, second round. I thought that was a phenomenal second round for them. I thought they lost it a little bit in rounds 4 through 7. Hippolyte was on almost no one's radar. He's a guy easily could have gotten the 6th or 7th. The fact that they felt like they had to give him the 4th, I thought was really surprising. Zach Frazier, decent dude out of UTSA. There's other guys I liked out there better. Newman out of Michigan State, he's kind of a grinder guard. I think he'll be nice. I think he'll be a nice addition, nice backup at a few different positions. So I like that. And then I actually thought Kyle Monangai from Rutgers in the 7th round was a really good pick. Now, I wish the Bears would have taken a guy in the 4th round where they took Hippolyte. I would have much rather seen him take a running back when all those running backs were going off the board in the 4th. But Monangai, the Bears are like the Colts. They take a ton of Big Ten guys. They love Big Ten guys. They watch a ton of Big Ten football. You can tell that they're, watching and seeing a ton of other guys on tape when they're watching other prospects on tape. This is a sneaky pick in the 7th round, John. If you're going to feel good about a 6th or 7th round fantasy asset, Monangai might be the guy you're going to feel really good about. They drafted him. The guy can block. And that's one of the biggest problems you have of all running backs in the NFL when they come out is like they can't block. Everybody goes, needs to work on blocking. Dude, he can block. The guy flat out, there's tape of him just laying guys out on blocks throughout the season. So he's definitely a guy. I know you're a big Roschon Johnson guy, but if I'm a Roschon owner, that pick makes me nervous. There's a chance he could beat out Roschon for that backup role behind Swift.
Yeah, 256 attempts, 1,279 yards, 14 touchdowns and 15 receptions for a guy that's known for blocking and staying inside to protect the quarterback and protect and just be a stud. So I'm very scared for my Roschon Johnson shares right now.
Yeah,
So.
I mean, if you look at the article that Chad Reuter put together, he gave the Bears a pretty terrible day 3 grade, which I honestly didn't like a lot of those picks. So he gave him a C grade, but he says at the very end, Monangai could prove to be the best value of all these picks.
Yeah,
getting him in the 7th. He feels like a Bears running back, man. He feels like a dirty get up. Let's get in the snow. Let's run some guys over. Let's just keep chugging. He's that type of guy. He's sneaky. He's a sneaky fantasy guy right now. He's a guy that I could see going undrafted or one of the first guys off the waiver wire right now. If you're drafting right now, but if you don't draft till August or September, like right before the season starts, I could see him being a guy that moves up into like the 3rd round of drafts. Of rookie drafts, because their Bears are raving about him. He's moving up in camp. He's looking awesome. And then all of a sudden everybody's all over him. So if you're getting him now, you're probably getting him at a discount to where he's going to be in a couple months.
The new David Montgomery to go, alongside. And, this is like Ben Johnson's old office before with the Thunder and Lightning combination. This might be the Thunder for sure. So as a matter of fact, I just made a trade this morning for I really wanted, because all these pieces of this offense, I wanted Caleb Williams on a bunch of teams I have. I got him like 2 or 3 teams. I traded away J.J. McCarthy and Jamison Williams to get Caleb Williams. How do you think I did in that trade?
I don't mind that. I don't mind. You gave up J.J. McCarthy and Jamison Williams for Caleb
Jamison
Williams
on the last year of his contract next year, so he's probably going to be gone. I mean, they might, he's going to year 4 now.
He feels like a guy that they would let go to someone else if somebody else gave him a lot of money. So you don't know where he's going to end up. While I'm big on JJ, I think he's got a lot of room to be a very, very good NFL quarterback. He's tied to Kevin O'Connell, and that's why people love him, because we've seen what kind of offense he can have in Minnesota. Does that mean that JJ ends up becoming a fantasy stud? I don't know about that. I think I'm leaning that to the fact that I think he's going to be a very good NFL quarterback. Is he going to be fantasy gold? I don't know. I feel like the Bears with Caleb Johnson, they're going to try to get Caleb Williams with Ben Johnson, are really going to start to do the Lions and try to put up points. I think they're going to be a team that really tries to hit. So I like it. Especially with all the offensive pieces that they're putting around Caleb Williams. I don't mind that trade at all, John.
Yeah, it's just something I thought, two $50 bills for a $100 bill, I guess, kind of the way I looked at it like that. So Jeremy Perrog says, what did I miss? What you missed is we're going team by team in alphabetical order, and we are analyzing the NFL draft. So keep going along. So
you're lucky we're pretty early on here so far. We're still in the C's, if that tells you anything.
The Cincinnati Bengals, B- grade. JT, what was their team needs?
Came in, needing an offensive line, D-line help, possible backup running back or starting running back, however you looked at it, safety, and then possibly tight end, which you boo-booed because you like Mike Gesicki, and so do I. So that was that's what they said they needed to come. Oh, sorry. I am totally messing that up because I was still on the Bears. Edge rusher. That's what they needed. Edge rusher, safety, linebacker, O-line. That's kind of what everybody talked about. I was like, no, me and you were saying no on the tight ends. Edge, safety, linebacker. That's not a shocker. We've seen the Bengals. They have a great offense. They put up points with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. What they can't do is stop anybody. So,
yeah, they sure can't do that. If they spent one more pick on the offensive side of the ball, I think they would just. Well, they did actually, but they got in round 1. They got Shamir Stewart from Texas A&M, edge, number 17. Round 2, they got Demetrius Knight Jr. from South Carolina, linebacker. And then they went offensive line, Dylan Fairchild from Georgia. Georgia players usually are pretty damn good. Round 4, Barrett Carter from Clemson. Round 5, another offensive lineman, offensive tackle, Jalen Rivers from Miami. And round 6, they went Taj Brooks from Texas Tech. So they did trade their 7th round pick away for Khalil Herbert last year. So I'm not sure where Taj Brooks actually fits in this situation, but They got a little bit more help for the backfield. That doesn't spell doom for the starting running back they have right now. But at the same time, they are adding some pieces, which they thought was best available. So, Shamar Stewart, tell me about these two first defensive picks you got, 17 and 49, Shamar Stewart and Demetrius Knight.
Yeah, so Shamar Stewart, if we want to talk about combine winners, like from the past, Shamar Stewart, man, 10 out of 10 RAS score, one of the all-time best for a defensive lineman, defensive edge. Dude is an absolute physical specimen. Now, the problem, 4.5 sacks in college in 3 seasons. Yeah. 4.5 sacks in 3 seasons, so not great. Again, was one of those talented defensive players on the Texas A&M team who just didn't necessarily put up the numbers to match their talent. That's the struggle there. If he works out, it's going to be an absolute slam dunk pick. People are going to be so pumped that they went with the talent and took the most talented guy on the board. If he doesn't, it's going to be another example of another workout warrior who looked awesome in the gym, looked awesome at every metric, but then he just never gets it done on the field. I think he's better than those 4.5 sacks. I think he put a lot of pressure on teams and got there. He just didn't get home for the sack a lot of times. He's one of those that's risk reward for him. Risk reward. Everything says that he should be an absolute stud in the NFL. Now, we've seen those guys in the past, and they never become studs. Everything says he should be, so we'll see there. Opposite end of the spectrum in round 2, Demetrius Knight Jr. I tell you what, if you've never seen him in an interview, he might be the nicest human being ever. He's a super nice guy. He absolutely reminds me last year of Xavier Legette. Talking and just super down earth. He's got a couple kids. They asked him about playing in the bowl game, and he didn't sit out to prepare for the NFL draft. He said, I can't sit this game out and then look my kids in the face and tell them I didn't give it all and play my whole season through. I'm like, that young dad, but man, that's where it's at, man. Great advice. Great to hear out of him. Older player, man. Older player. 6 years in college. I think he's 25 right now. So he's already a pretty old player. He fell in my IDP rankings, which I won't get into the IDP stuff, but just because he doesn't, he's just not one of those guys that jumps off the screen at you, but he's a bulldog. He makes plays. He's tough. So I think that's a good pick. Fairchild, nice O-line pick. Barrett Carter is like the opposite of Knight. He's a guy that has everything you want as a physical specimen as a linebacker, but you were just you weren't that impressed with him. He missed a ton of tackles where Knight absolutely brought down anyone he got his hands on. Barrett Carter got there and didn't bring him down. Now, as a 4th-round pick, absolutely worth it. Absolutely worth taking a chance on it. He was originally someone that a lot of people had going in the 2nd. I was very nervous about him going in the 2nd. So 4th round I felt is better value. Jalen Rivers, 5th round is okay. Depth piece. Taj Brooks, one of the absolute best productions in the last 5 years in college. Absolutely owns every record at Texas Tech. Older prospect. Again, he played 5 full years, almost 6 full years in college. 6th round. I don't think he steals this job from Chase Brown. I don't think we're even worried about that. I think he was a nice depth piece. He gets the end zone. He can catch. He can block. He can run. He can do a little bit of everything. To me, he's a better version of Moss, who they had last year, who's had an injury. Don't know if he'll be back. I actually think Brooks is a really nice addition. I think he's a better, younger Moss. So to me, he should be backing up Chase Brown. If you got Chase Brown, don't worry.
I really like Khalil Herbert, and it kind of just sucks that he never really had a chance to make something of himself anywhere because of injuries and people. He got in. Remember Cincinnati last year? He got in a team in the first carry. He fumbled the ball, and then he went on the bench the rest of the season. They're like, all right, if you're going to fumble every time, get out of here. But that's just the way that in the NFL, it's not for long when you make mistakes like that. So I get it, but man,
it's going to be interesting because he right now is the presumptive backup to Jonathan Taylor in Indy. So it's going to be very interesting to see if he can hold on to that number 2 job for the Colts, which is, for fantasy purposes, being the handcuff for Jonathan Taylor is usually pretty nice.
Yeah, right. It's just, that he's gone. It's what happens. So they bring in somebody else, 286 rushing attempts, 1,505 yards and 18 touchdowns, 28 receptions, 2 for 200 yards. That's a lot, man. in reality, guys like this, they fell for a reason, and the reason being they're kind of backup fodder, I guess, but he may have a real opportunity if something was to happen to the starting running back here. So Jamie's got some questions here. You want to take some of these real fast? Jamie's got a couple trade questions. So 10 teams. We'll get through these real fast, Jamie. We're not going to analyze them too much, but we'll get to them. 10 teams, Superflex, 0.75, 10 in premium, start 11 roster. He traded away Bo Nix and 110 for Genty and Pollard. The defending champ, now he's got Gibbs and Genty. Anytime you got Gibbs and Genty, that's pretty damn good. That's a good running back field, especially in a 10-team league. It's a little bit more consolidated. So these trades with these awesome backfields look good right now because everybody's used to playing with 12 and 14-team leagues. But 10-team leagues, a lot of people have pretty good backfields, but Gibbs and Genty is a pretty damn good backfield, even in a 10-team league. So
yeah, you want studs, and you don't need quarterback as well. So I'm guessing Bo Nix is probably his quarterback 3 or 4 on that team. So I don't mind that move at all. I like it.
Same league, traded away Jalen McMillan, which is probably a smart move. Jalen Wright, which I have a lot of hope for, but we'll see what happens there. And Isaac Garendo and 310. That's McMillan, Jalen Wright, Garendo, and 310. Mid. And I got
you got Trey Mother
MF
Harris.
And gave her 4 quarters for a brand new crisp dollar bill. So yeah, JT loves those.
I love Trey Harris. So Jamie, I'm all in on that move, man. I think you're getting backup running back, 310, a backup running back or wide receiver, and then Jalen McMillan, who I think had a nice year last year, but I'm not sold that he's going to be super fantasy relevant. I like Trey Harris. So
Taj Brooks, my next pick on the clock, and debated Taj or James.
I'm guessing that's Jordan James, who right now is the 3rd running back for the Niners behind Garendo, but we'll see what happens there. Oh, man, that's a toughie. If I have Chase Brown, I'm absolutely taking Taj to back him up. If I have CMC, I might be leaning Jordan James. James went earlier than Taj in the draft for all purposes, but I'm probably taking Taj because unless the Bengals do something crazy here in the offseason or bring somebody in, I think Taj is automatically the backup for Chase. So, and I'm not sure James is not 3rd string, though. If he got a chance for the Niners, I would love him.
My second running back was Ford, I guess he's saying. He put quarterback down there. So I was going to draft Caleb at 110. That's it seems a little. I guess I don't know. Caleb's got a lot of mixed reviews.
I would rather have GT. I would rather.
Yeah.
If I've got to throw in the extra player to get GT instead of taking Caleb at 110, I would trade Nix and basically if you're saying I traded Nix and Caleb Johnson for GT, I'm doing that for GT. Absolutely.
And Jamie, I always prefer you watching the Dynasty Evaluation channel. That would be fantastic. Thanks for asking, though. All right. So next team on the list is the Cleveland Browns. B+ grade here. JT, what was their team needs?
We are on. Sorry, let me jump up here.
The Cleveland Browns got a
We are on the Cleveland
grade.
Browns. So Cleveland team needs everything always. No, I'm just kidding. Team needs QB big time. QB, O-line, edge rusher, running back, wide receiver. So again, almost everything. So this team, they got Myles Garrett re-signed, but let's be honest, outside of Myles Garrett and a couple of their cornerbacks, this team needs a lot.
Yeah, it does. It needs a lot. Well, it got a lot. Everybody's a fan favorite from Michigan, Mason Graham, defensive tackle, pick 1, number 5, stud. Absolute stud. Round 2, number 33, Carson Schlesinger, a linebacker from UCLA. Round 2, 36, running back Quinshad Judkins. They picked him right in front of the Bears. I think the Bears would have, the Bears could have used a good early down back like that, but he was gone. It is what it is. Round 3. Harold Fannin Jr. I had him on almost all my C2C teams. He almost won. He pretty much single-handedly won a championship in one of my leagues. So tight end Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green. Round 3, quarterback Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. Round 4, running back Dylan Sampson from Tennessee. A lot of people like Dylan Sampson coming into this draft. Round 5, they finally said, hey, this Shedeur Sanders guy is falling off the board, the quarterback from Colorado. Maybe we should give him a chance. So they got a B+ grade for day 1 with the Mason Graham pick. That should be an A in my opinion. Day 2, B+ grade for Quinshon Judkins, Carson Schlesinger, Harold Fannin, and Dylan Gabriel. That should be, I guess, a B+ is pretty fair in day 3 grade. Shitter Sanders falling that far and picking him up, you automatically get an A for that. No matter how bad he is, he was supposed to go. He was presumed a first-round talent by some analysts. You saw on draft day, what's his name? I don't know why I'm blanking on his name. The analyst was like, he was absolutely going nuts that Shitter fell this far. He thought he should be a top 20 talent. So, and that's why day 3 A grades there. What do you think about this draft? Because to get a B+ for Mason Graham, it's the 5th pick. I know defensive line is not sexy, but Mason Graham's a stud. What do you think about this draft?
Yeah, I think, I'd love to move back from 2. I love Travis Hunter. I think he's going to be special. So I actually thought it was a good move by the Jags moving up to get him. But you're Cleveland. You've given away a million picks for Deshaun Watson, which has not worked out, and presumably at this point is never going to work out. He's expected to miss this whole year with an Achilles injury, and even when he comes back, I think this team is going to move on from him as soon as they possibly can.
Yep.
So I like to move back. Mason Graham is better than people think. They needed defensive tackle help. I know it's not the sexy pick, but moving back to 5 and getting the extra first next year, I thought, to me, I'm really surprised that was a B+ grade. I would have thought they would have given them an A or an A+ for that, move down 3 spots and add some picks. To me, I thought that was their best move of this whole draft. Carson Schlesinger's guys come up late all over the place for UCL last year. Like I've said, and I'll say it a number of times the rest of this draft, off-ball linebacker, inside linebacker, not a great class, just not very deep. Schlesinger was a guy, he was like kind of a one-hit wonder. UCLA was a walk-on initially. Guy made plays everywhere. I really like him. Fantasy purposes, I think he's going to be good. But, man, have to be honest, little shocked that they took him at the top of the second round. That seemed really early to me. That means OKJ is probably hurt bad. Like, he's got a neck injury, and they're not sure he's ever coming back. So to me, that really pushes that he might never come back. And that fact that they took Schlesinger all the way up at the very first pick. There were so many guys sitting there at the top of that second round. It's just very surprising to me that they went with him there. If they would have taken him like in the 3rd round, to me, it would have been an A+ pick. But to me, top of the second round is more of a B- for him. I love the Judkins pick. 3 picks later, I thought it was phenomenal. He's going to have to replace Nick Chubb. He's that type of player. I think he can be an absolute stud for fantasy for them. They need O-line help. They need a lot of other things. But I think they could end up giving him a ton of carries. I wouldn't be shocked if we saw a Najee Harris rookie year type of season where he gets like over 1,000 yards, ends up with like 9-10 touchdowns, and then actually catches quite a few passes out of the backfield, way more than you think he would. Same thing that happened to Najee, caught way more passes that rookie year than people thought he would. So I like Judkins. Really nice pick. Right now in fantasy drafts, he's going pretty much across the board 1.8 or higher. I've seen him go 1.5 in a couple leagues, 1.6, 1.7. I had a 1.7 the other day I traded out of, and he went 1.7 right after I traded out of the pick. So Harold Fannin Jr., John, I know you were big tight end fan. He broke every record. Round 367, maybe a slight high. People kind of thought he might go 3rd round after he was just one of the smallest tight ends in the entire class. Just not very big. So if you use him right, so this is where the question for me on this pick is. If they use him right, they put him in the slot, they make him a big slot receiver, they have zero intention of ever trying to make him block, this could be a good pick. If they do that and they get him the ball. If they don't use him correctly, they just wasted this pick. Dylan Gabriel, I was beyond shocked. I know some people that really like him. I could not believe he was a 3rd round pick and that he went over Shitter Sanders, and then he went ahead of like Kyle McCord, Will Howard, a bunch of guys that all ended up falling to like the 5th, 6th, 7th round. So the fact that you spent a 3rd on Dylan Gabriel, to me, I don't know how you get a B+ for that. Right. I really don't. I think I thought that was a terrible selection. I just think you could have got Dylan Gabriel easily in the 5th or 6th round. So to me, taking him in the 3rd, I just don't like it. Is he a guy that can play in the NFL? Yes. I think Dylan Gabriel's a career backup, though.
Yeah,
To me, I think he has career backup, solid career backup written all over him.
All these team needs, they could have really got a solid player in the third round and then still got Sanders in the. I'm sure that they didn't know they were still going to be able to get Sanders in the fifth round. I'm sure that was the case. They said, hey, let's get a quarterback. But yeah, if you're going to take a quarterback, just take what is presumably the better quarterback in Shedeur Sanders. Even though I'm not a Sanders fan, even I know he's better than Dylan Gabriel. So, and Dylan Gabriel's probably going to be a lifetime backup on this team. And this Dylan Sampson and Quinshon Judkins, that spells probably doom and gloom for my boy Jerome Ford, which hopefully he goes on to greener pasture somewhere else. We get some more playing time, but that is what it is.
After that, Dylan Sampson. I thought Dylan Sampson in the fourth round. He was a guy a lot of people had top 5 running back in this class written all over. Led the SEC in rushing all-time single season rushing record for yards and touchdowns at Tennessee this year. He was phenomenal. Fourth round pick. I thought was insane value for him. Even though you went Judkins in the second, I have to tell you, the Browns are one of the only teams that did what I said most of these teams should do, and that's take 2 running backs in this draft. Loaded running back draft class. There was no reason not to. Jerome Ford was there, you said, for your guy, but beyond Jerome Ford, they don't really have anything else in the cupboard. I love the idea of taking Judkins and Sampson. Love the 1-2 punch. I'm not one of those guys that downgraded them because they took Judkins earlier. Shedeur Sanders in the 5th, A+. I'm another one of those guys. I was one of those people. I couldn't believe nobody was taking him. I know there was a lot of Shedeur hate out there. I had him as my QB1 in this draft class. I know I'm going to take heat for that. To me, I think it was an attitude thing and a Dion thing. The fact that he fell to the 5th, there was just absolutely no reason he fell that far. I was pretty pissed. If you watched the live show on the Stu with JT Brew, I did the live cast. If you didn't see that, I did the day 1, 2, and 3. I just couldn't believe that everyone was passing on him. I couldn't believe the Steelers were passing on him. I couldn't believe they passed on him multiple times. It blew my mind. I thought it'd be a miracle if he got to 21 to the Steelers. And then next thing I know, I'm like, oh, they're not going to take him second. I'm like, oh, well, third round, that's great value. Then they skip him in the third. I'm like, oh my God, this is crazy. So the fact that he got to the 5th, I thought was insane.
We're gonna take a shot at Shiloh Sanders and the Bucs over Shedeur on the Clowns. Yeah, that's a good one. That's good stuff. We're only on like team 10 right now. We're in an hour in a show, so we're gonna try and let's do 2 more teams, and then we'll finish up. We'll do another show on some more teams. I like the way the kind of flow this show is going. So let's do a couple more teams.
We'll knock a couple out here quick, John. I'll be quick.
All right. Next one, A- Dallas Cowboys. What was their team needs coming in the draft? Because I know one of them was running back.
Yeah, everybody's wanting to take running back. Have wanted it forever. Wide receiver, running back, cornerback, linebacker, D-line.
Yeah, well, they got a guard, Tyler Booker from Alabama, stud. They got in round 1. Round 2, edge, Donovan Ezra. Yeah, Boston College. Round 3, cornerback, Siobhan Ravel, East Carolina. Round 5, Jaden Blue, my boy Blue from Texas. Round 5, also linebacker Shamir James from Florida. Round 6, offensive tackle Annie Cornelius from Oregon. Round 7, defensive tackle Jay Toya. Round 7, another running back Phil Maffa from Clemson. Round 7, defensive tackle Tommy Atkinson from Maryland. So even though they did take a couple running backs here, I think didn't like set up the same fire as what some people wanted them to do at running back. What do you think?
Yeah, Booker, I think that nobody knew they were going to do at 12. I think Booker was a solid pick there at 12. Ezereku, nice edge from Boston College, undersized guy, but I think he's got speed on the side. Some people thought he could be a first rounder, so nice one there. Siobhan Ravel, a lot of people thought might be the actual cornerback 1 in this draft class if he wasn't hurt. He was injured. The fact that he fell the 3rd, outstanding value there. They've got some cornerback injuries currently, but I think getting him in the 3rd was great. Gene Blue's another one. 5th rounder. There was still a lot of running backs I liked better. The dude's got blazing wheels. So Texas kid, if he can stay and not fumble, he could be awesome. He could be an absolute home run hitter for them. He had a terrible time holding the football in college. So that's going to be the big knock on him. Then if they went with the speed with him, the opposite, Phil Moffitt for Clemson, big dude, strong, really nice at Clemson, but not fast. Not fast, not elusive, not much burst. So he's a different type of runner. But I tell you what, Moffitt, that's not a bad landing spot if you're going to land anywhere in the 7th round. With the only guy they took in front of you was Jaden Blue in the 5th. I think that helps. So those guys could be fantasy relevant. But I'm proceeding with major caution on both those guys.
Yeah, no, I get it 100%. I just, is Javonte Williams the guy this year? Is that what they're going to do? They're going to have Javonte being the lead back. It is what it is.
I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I have him in not very many teams. I have one team where I was desperate for running back, and now he's my 3rd running back. I'm like, oh, okay. Might be all right.
I'll take it. Day 1 grade of B+, day 2 grade of A-, day 3 grade of A- also. I guess that they're pretty happy with what the Cowboys did. A lot of non-sexy picks this year. A lot of fantasy players do not like this draft this year because a lot of defense, a lot of offensive linemen, a lot of stuff like that. Wasn't so many flashy offensive names this year. So, it is what it is. But up next, we have the Denver Broncos, the B+ grade. What was their team needs?
Yeah, Broncos coming in. We talked about it. Like the Cowboys, needed running back, needed wide receiver help for Bo Nix. Cornerback, a little bit, depending on how you looked at some of their guys. Maybe a slot corner because obviously Surtain, player of the year on defense. Tight end and D-line.
Yeah. Round 1, cornerback, Jahdae Barron. A lot of people like Jahdae Barron. Round 2, a lot of people, they round 2, pick 60. They got RJ Harvey from Central Florida. So, RJ Harvey is somebody that people are putting above Caleb Johnson right now in a lot of fantasy drafts because of his receiving ability. So that we'll see how that plays out through the offseason. Round 3, number 74, your boy Pat Bryant from the University of Illinois, ILL-INI. Round 3 again, 101 edge, Savion Jones, LSU. Round 4 edge, Hugh Robinson, Alabama. Round 6 punter, Jeremy Kershaw from Florida. Round 7 tight end, Caleb Lohner from Utah. Day 1 grade A, day 2 C+, day 3 grade B. Day 1, you really can't go wrong with Jahdae Barron. Day 2, RJ Harvey. Tell me about what you thought about this draft.
I loved Barron. Barron was a guy if the Colts didn't go Warren at 14, I really wanted Barron. I think he can be a Brian Branch type player for the Lions. A guy that can play the slot corner. He can play outside. He can play strong safety. He can play deep if he has to. The Broncos already have a great defense and a great secondary. I thought this was just a fantastic pick. He got an A on it. I would have gave him an AA+, honestly. That was a fantastic pick to keep their defense ahead of the curve. RJ Harvey, I had some other running backs over him, so I wouldn't have probably taken him there, but I do like him. He was a guy moving up my list. They obviously liked him. Super productive in college. I mean, super productive. I kind of said he was Aston Jeanty light. So the fact that he went in the 2nd round, I was like, he's like pretty much the same size, a little bit less weight, but pretty much the same height, similar type of player, insanely productive. So RJ Harvey is definitely on my list as he is now everything I've seen in fantasy drafts in this first week is he's going top 10 everywhere. And so the question is he going before Caleb Johnson, after Caleb Johnson? That's really kind of his cutoff right now. So I thought it was Pat Bryant. Love Pat Bryant. Super great kid. Watched him his whole career at Illinois. I was real shocked about this, to be honest with you. I did not think he would go in the 3rd, especially the high 3rd.
Right.
I thought he was going to probably go possibly very end of the late 3rd, maybe top of the 4th. So I love this landing spot. I think he's going to get a shot. We never know what Sean Payton's going to do with his players. Sometimes he gets these guys and he loves them. Sometimes he gets them and he hates them, like a Marvin Mims, and just refuses to play them.
Right.
We'll see what happens with Pat Bryant, but he's a big, strong, smart receiver. I think Sean Payton's going to love him just because the guy knows the mentals. He just makes plays. He's not a blazer. He ran like a 4.6 140. So that knocked him down, but production was fantastic in college on a run first team. I think a lot of people probably think that pick is too high. I probably agree with them. But if you would have said they took him at 101 in the third round instead of 74, I would have been like, oh, that's bam, right where I had him. So he probably maybe went 20 picks too early, 20, 25 picks too early, but I don't mind it. I like him. So he's a guy that I was getting fourth rounds of fantasy picks. I think he's moved up a bit depending on who's in your league and who likes him. So I'm getting him anywhere from mid third to early fourth in leagues right now.
Yeah, Pat Bryant's a converted quarterback playing wide receiver. So they just signed Cortland Sutton. They got Mims, who they, last year Mims flashed pretty well towards the end of the season. But I think he's kind of a sell right now in the offseason. Then they got Devon Vele. So Pat Bryant's an addition. But, yeah, again, like you said, I'm not sure how big of an addition. Julian McLaughlin, Audric Estime, Tyler Batty, Blake Watson, that kind of stuff.
Definitely, so RJ Harvey definitely hurts all those other running backs. Now the question is, are they going to really lean on Harvey, or is Sean Payton going to do Sean Payton things and just keep giving everyone like 8 carries a game?
Jeremy says, I've been putting in claims for Pat Bryant as undrafted in rookie draft. Earliest I saw Joe Bond take him at 302.
I think that's right. He was like really like mid 4th to 5th round or not drafted at all in a lot of my drafts pre-draft. Him going to the 3rd, I thought would push him up a bit. A lot of people don't love it. So I know he's really kind of been that, depending on the size of your league. I've seen him in like a 14 team league go like mid 3rd. But most of the time I've been seeing him like right at the beginning of that middle 4th round.
Yeah. Yes. So
if I got him there in my drafts, I'd be stoked. I've had a couple where he was coming up. He was coming up to my pick, and I was like, and of course he went 2 picks before me.
You love your Illinois guys. You sure
I
do. I do. So anything else about the Broncos?
I think we're good, John. I think we can knock out a few more here. We got about 20 minutes left. Let's knock a few more out.
I am in no hurry, but I didn't want to take up your entire night talking about what I love to talk about. So. The Detroit Lions with a B grade. What do they need going into this draft, JT?
Yeah, so the Lions coming in, obviously almost everyone was rooting for them to go to the Super Bowl last year and win it. Fell just short, lost all their offensive coordinator, defense coordinator, pretty much all their coaching staff. They needed edge help, O-line, safety, D-line, wide receiver.
Yeah, well, they got a defensive tackle in Tyleik Williams from Ohio State. They got a guard from Tate Redledge from Georgia. Love seeing those big guards, the big players from the SEC, ACC, Big Ten to Power 5. Round 3, Isaac Tesla, fan favorite at the Combine. We were sitting in the stands when the whole place went nuts when Tesla was up there.
Everything he did, everyone cheered for.
Yeah, wide receiver Isaac Tesla with TSLAA Tesla. Not TSLA like your boys, cars, but he's from Arkansas. A guy I interviewed at the draft in round 5, offensive guard Miles Frazier, LSU. I kind of hated to see him fall this far because I thought he was a pretty good player. He gave great answers at the Combine. Good dude. I think he's gonna. You can never go wrong with drafting dudes like that who are just powerhouses with the road blocker mentality kind of. Round 6, edge Ahmad Hussein from Boise State. Round 7, a safety, Dan Jackson for Georgia. And round 7, Dominic Lovett from Georgia. B+ on day 1. On day 2, grade C. And day 3, A-. How do you think these guys did as far as with only – they don't really need as far as wide receivers concerned. They took Tesla. I'm not really sure why, but I think they could.
That was by far their worst pick, I think. He was a guy who did not do much in college. Honestly, he crushed at the Combine is why he got up there. He ran a crazy time. He's a tall guy. He's athletic. He's got ability. I did not see anyone with a 3rd round grade on him. Anyone. So he's a guy I would have thought, hey, if they would have taken him in the 5th round, I've been like, ooh, great value. But in the 3rd round, man, there were so many guys still on the board in that 3rd round. That it's tough for me to give him a very good grade. Obviously, the day 2 grade with him in there really brought their grade down. Tyleik Williams, great defensive tackle / defensive end. I think he plays defensive end. He's a bigger guy. I think he's going to be phenomenal on the opposite side of Hutchinson when Aiden Hutchinson comes back. I actually like that pick a ton. Honestly, getting him at 28, I thought was an absolute freaking steal. I knew teams were talking about taking him in the top 15. So the fact that they got him that late, I thought was phenomenal. Tate Ratledge, out of Georgia, offense guard, second round. I think that's a really good pick. Tough player. He's going to be good. Miles Frazier, LSU, they got in the 5th. Frazier's going to be a backup early on, but a guy can work his way into a starting role. So I really like those two guys on the interior edge. Hasten is an undersized guy that can really bring some heat from the outside. So quality pick there in the 6th. And then Dan Jackson, Dominic Levet, I know a lot about, former Missouri guy from St. Louis, led the SEC in wide receiving as a sophomore, and then decided to turn around and transfer to Georgia. Won a national title, but never really got into the mix on the offense there. Interesting to see what happens to him is he was a pretty highly recruited guy coming out of high school, and he showed that he could compete in the SEC. Just didn't really get the looks at Georgia the last couple of years. To me, he's a nice 7th-round flyer, especially like you said, if you get him, put him on the practice squad, have him maybe be your 5th wideout, and then if a Jameson Williams goes or you move him later and don't re-sign him to a long-term deal, maybe Levet's a guy that can work his way up. So intriguing spot for him to land.
Yes, it was. Next up is the Green Bay Packers with an A- grade. What do the Packers need going in this draft?
Packers really need some secondary help. They're not sure exactly what's going to happen with Jair Alexander. So they need cornerback for sure. Wide receiver is just a cluster of all clusters. No one's sure what's going on there with all their guys, young, talented guys, but who's the alpha, where's going to go? So they were looking at wide receiver. And then also defensive line, edge and interior D-line were some things that they were looking for.
Yeah, well, in round 1, they Aaron Rodgers was spitting at the TV, I'm sure, where he was sitting at because they took a wide receiver in round 1 to Matthew Golden the first time in a long time. He's from Texas. He moved up a lot of draft boards after the combine, after he tested, outside the gym. So round 2, offensive tackle, Anthony Belton from North Carolina State. Round 3, pick 87, wide receiver, Savion Williams, TCU. Just a big, strong, athletic, freak. The guy is one of those guys who, can pick up cars and jump over buildings, and, we'll see how that plays out. Plus he's a decent receiver too, but he's just an animal as far as physical ability is concerned. Round 4, edge, Byron Sorrell from Texas. Round 5, another edge, Colin Oliver from Oklahoma State. Round 6, defensive tackle, Warren Brinson from Georgia. Round 7, cornerback, Micah Robinson from Tulane. Round 7, guard, John Williams from Cincinnati. Day 1, grade A. Day 2, grade B. Day 3, grade B+. So is Golden as good as a receiver as people are making him out to be? Because they think right now that he's going to, that everybody, all these cheeseheads think that Matthew Golden's going to come in there and be the next coming of, I don't know who, but, he's going to.
I think he's a little underrated. I think he's overrated, man. I really do. He ran that 4.2 940 at the combine, and just all of a sudden people were like, he went from wide receiver like 5, 6, 7 to like people's wide receiver 2 in some circumstances. So if you look at the metrics, I mean, obviously the athletic ability is there, but if you look at his metrics from college, he almost hit none of the numbers you want to see a guy hit in college that translates to production in the NFL. So if Golden hits, he's going to be one of those outliers of a guy that, like, maybe some circumstance, maybe it was quarterback play, but whatever. He's a guy that's going to have missed all the metrics in college, but made it in the pros. I'm nervous about him. In fantasy drafts, if he falls to me in the right spot, I'm taking him, but there's quite a few guys I want over him at wide receiver. I was honestly a little shocked that they took Golden here because, again, I feel like Golden's a lot like all the guys they already have. So it's like, it just felt like you're just adding another guy to the mix here for the Packers. I'm not sure if he comes out and becomes the number 1. I almost feel like they're punting on Christian Watson at this point, and they're like, "Oh, we'll take him and replace Christian Watson with him."
I was going to say that.
That's what I was going
to say that because Christian Watson really made their offense kind of click, and if they're looking for a replacement for Christian Watson, I mean, Golden didn't even have 1,000 yards ever in his years in college, so I'm not really sure what they were thinking when they drafted a guy like that in the first round.
And they fell in love with Watson's combine scouting report, right?
Sure.
This is the same thing. He was super fast guy, taller, just burner, and they kind of fell in love with that too.
if he didn't get hurt all the time with his hamstrings, how good would he really be in the NFL? Because
that's a good question. I was a little worried about him. To me, he seemed like that super boomer bust guy. Like he was going to either put it together and be really, really good, or he was going to be a guy that was often injured or couldn't put it together and just couldn't stay on the field. We've kind of had the latter, which, sucks for fantasy wise, but it is what on that one. Round 3, Savion Williams, real surprise here. Another one. So many running backs, so many wide receivers on the board in that third round. Savion Williams. Now, again, he's another guy. I really hope they have a plan, and that's why they took him. Because if they don't have a plan for him, I'm not sure where this pick comes from. Another absolute athletic freak, a beast of a human. Guy is just huge.
Yeah.
He looks like DK Metcalf. He's freaking huge. This guy is just absolute, I wish I could go to the gym and work out and look like that. I mean, it's freaking insane. The question is, what does he do in the NFL? Like, is he a running back? Is he a kick returner? Is he a wide receiver? He kind of played a little bit of everything. He reminds me a lot of Cordell Patterson, which I really like him, and he was a great returner in the NFL. But like we saw, he never consistently was like a producer at running back or wide receiver. He had that kind of combo year and a half at Atlanta where he was like basically playing running back, but counted as a wide receiver, and you could kind of do different stuff with him in fantasy. So that's my thing with Williams. Now he's got all the traits you want in an NFL player. Now, does he have anyone that are special that'll make him stand out? I'm super nervous for fantasy. I just don't know where you'd play him, what he's going to do, how he's going to perform. But again, that's when I think I'm going to have to wait and see what the plan from the Packers is. Because again, another super talented, uber talented athletic guy, but I don't see where he produces in the NFL, at least consistently for you. So in taking him in round 3, I thought was a big stretch. Obviously, he liked a lot of these grades from these other guys. But I thought the Golden, I can't believe that got an A. I can't believe the Savion Williams got a B. Both those I thought were maybe C plus B minuses to me personally. I don't know where he got the A on the Packers. This is one of the few ones I'm disagreeing with. I do think, lining those guys up on defense in the 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, are any of those guys going to make it? I don't know, but I think they're solid players that have a shot to make a roster.
JT, I was in a draft yesterday. I spent like I was a 4-hour timer. I spent about 2.5 hours working out a deal to get Luther Burden at 110. And right when I made the deal, he got picked. I'm like, so I had to pick Matthew Golden with 111. I'm like, God, Burden was.
Oh, like you got the deal through, but it didn't get accepted and traded until he got picked.
Because I was just trading picks at that point in time, and the guy before me was on the clock, so I tried doing it, and then I finally got a trade through because I thought pretty sure the other guy was taking somebody else, so I traded with the next guy in line. And then the guy picked a Burden right in front of me. I'm like, you got to be kidding me. Like,
that's rough, dude.
Yeah, so I ended up getting Matthew Golden with consolation prize. But, it is what it is. So,
like I said, he could end up being good. He could end up being the alpha number 1 for this Packers team. We just haven't seen anyone do it since Devontae Adams. And so now we're kind of in that wide receiver hell that is Green Bay. Like, who is going to be the guy week to week? Maybe Golden is the guy that ends that.
Yeah. Not much of a fantasy draft after that. Edges, defensive tackle, cornerback, and the offensive lineman. So a lot of team needs filled here. I mean, the top couple rounds, I think they overextended themselves with the fantasy options, but it is what it is. So that's what the Packers did. That's what they do when they finally take someone in the first round. They overextend themselves, but hey, whatever. So next team is the Houston Texans with an A- grade. What was their team needs coming in the draft?
Yeah, Texans, they needed O-line, wide receiver, D-line, cornerback, safety. O-line was a big one with all the guys moving and the injuries and how bad they were protecting C.J. Stroud last year. And obviously, we've heard about everything that's gone on with the wide receivers. Diggs is gone. Tank Dell most likely out for the year, if not a career with his big injury again. So O-line and wide receiver, I think, were the 2 biggest things this team needed to focus on.
Well, they got my boy. You know how much I love Jaden Higgins.
Love him.
I love me some Jaden Higgins. So at number 34, round 2, Jaden Higgins from Iowa State. And they got an offensive tackle, which they desperately needed, Arete Arce from Minnesota. And then they turned back and got another Iowa State. They're kind of all over the place right now. They're popping up everywhere in the NFL. Round 3, pick number 79. They got Jalen Noel, the teammate from Iowa State, to Jaden Higgins. They got a cornerback, Jalen Smith from USC. Then they got your boy, Woody Marks from USC in pick 116 in round 4. Round 6, safety Jalen Reed from Penn State. Round 6, quarterback Graham Mertz from Florida. Round 7, defensive tackle Kinte Hamilton from Rutgers. Round 7, tight end Luke Lachey from Iowa. He had a little bit of buzz early on, but kind of fell off the radar a little bit. But day 1, grade A, day 2, grade A plus, day 3, grade C. They're very impressive that day 2 pick because they made a trade. So that's it is what it is. That day 1.
Yeah, they got the two second rounders, 2 third rounders. Obviously, they didn't have the first rounder as they made the trade last year.
Yep.
Up for defense for Anderson, which I think everybody decided that was probably a really good trade because he had a heck of a rookie season. I think he's going to be really good. I thought the Texans had a fantastic draft. A- for me. Higgins in the second at 34 was great. That's right when wideouts were going to get going in that second round. So I thought it was a really good pick. Jalen Noel and his teammate in the third round, who might have actually been better at Iowa State than Higgins. I think those guys pairing together with Nico, man, if you got CJ Stroud, I'm loving what they did to help CJ Stroud. And then also in that second round, Anna Irsay, the offensive lineman from Minnesota. Some people had him going very into the first round. So getting him there mid-second round, I thought was really nice. He adds depth to the offensive line, needed that. Jalen Smith, a solid corner. He was the one iffy pick for me. I thought that was maybe slightly early for him. There was a couple other cornerbacks I liked better, but obviously they liked him in there. I love this spot for Woody Marks. Woody Marks was a guy a lot of people had ranked pretty low. They weren't quite sure where he fit. I've had him on C2C teams for years from Mississippi State when he was there. I mean, this guy caught an insane amount of passes in college. I think I looked up the other day, it was like 173 or something ridiculous. I mean, he's got what you want as a profile as a third down back. He'd always kind of been a receiving back and not a huge running back. He, a couple of 300, 400, 500-yard seasons, but a bunch of receiving yards. This last year at USC, moved from Mississippi State to USC, had over 1,000 yards rushing, showed that he could run between the tackles and still caught the ball out of the backfield. Really like Woody Marks. He's quickly moving up my fantasy draft boards. He's a guy you're going to get a lot later right now than you are in a month or two. I think he's going to keep going way up because the ADP right now has him freaking low. So people have to know who they're looking for him and go find him on the Sleeper app, especially if you're drafting right now. He's really low right now. He's a guy I think is going to jump up. I'm in a couple drafts right now. I'm in like the mid to late third, and I'm like begging he gets to me.
Yeah.
So I love this spot for him. I love him backing up Joe Mixon. 83
receptions is 2021 his rookie year at Mississippi State. 48 his sophomore year. 23 his junior year, and 47. But he got a lot more. He got a lot more carries. 106, 113, 121.
And their offense slightly changed. They went from more of a spread, wide open offense where the running back was really involved in the passing game to a little more traditional offense. So his receptions went slightly down, but obviously a guy that can catch a ton of passes. I mean, when you're catching 80 balls out of the backfield in college, even if it is a spread, wide open air attack, that's still amazing.
Yeah, well, then he went to a workhorse role at USC. So
yeah, and then to me, he really jumped up boards with the way he showed he could run between the tackles and go for over 1,000 yards last year at USC. So I really like that. Graham Mertz, Florida, 6th round quarterback. I feel like that's kind of a throwaway pick. The one guy that I think is really interesting to keep an eye on here is Luke Lachey, the tight end out of Iowa, 7th round pick. A guy that was really high on people's draft boards 2 years ago. He's dealt with nothing but injuries the last couple seasons. If he can stay healthy, he's a guy kind of like Eric All last year, who played at Michigan, then went to Iowa. He's dealt with injuries as well. Lachey could be an absolute freaking steal in 2 years if he gets healthy and gets everything put together. He could be, even though he went in the 7th round, he could be a Dalton Schultz replacement there for the Texans.
Yeah, he definitely a taxi squad stash for sure. If you
Yeah, if you got big benches, deep drafts where you're drafting a lot of rounds, man, I would take a shot on him and throw him on my taxi.
Let's do the Colts and the Jaguars and then call it a night, okay?
All right,
Two more
sounds
teams.
good.
Okay, so Indianapolis Colts. You're just because I like the Colts and I like the Jaguars, you like the Colts. So we'll get these two teams out of the way. So a draft grade of A for the Indianapolis Colts. What was the Colts team needs coming into the draft? I think everybody knew one of them for sure.
Yep, everybody knew they needed a tight end. They've drafted a 50 million tight ends the last 10 years, and they just can't get one that hits. So they needed tight end. They needed O-line, linebacker. They had some guys take off in the offseason, so linebacker was a spot. They always want edge rushers, and then backup running back was another one that they needed.
Yeah, well, they got a tight end at pick number 14, Tyler Warren. They kind of fell right in their lap. There's the debate between Colson Loveland and Tyler Warren, and we kind of talked about that earlier. But they got Tyler Warren, so they're going to make it work. The round 2, number 45, JT Tuimiloa from Ohio State, Super Bowl college championship team caliber guy. Round 3, pick 80, quarterback Justin Wally from Minnesota. Round 4, offensive tackle Jalen Travis, Iowa State, more Cyclones. Round 5, running back DJ Giddens, Kansas State. Round 6, my boy, Riley Leonard, the leader of the University of Notre Dame Fighting Irish. Round 6, defensive tackle Tim Smith from Alabama. And then round 7, linebacker Hunter Woolen from Wisconsin. Draft day grade day 1, A+. Draft day grade 2, A-. Draft day 3 grade is an A, straight A. So across the board, it looks like a pretty good draft as far as analysts are concerned. What do you think about this draft, JT?
I liked it. Originally, I was all in on Tyler Warren. Then I started thinking, should we go defense and take Mason Taylor in the second? Kind of glad they didn't go there because the Jets were all over Mason Taylor early in the second round. So I don't think he would have got to the Colts, which would have absolutely infuriated me that we passed on Warren and then didn't get Taylor in the second round. I would have lost it. So I'm kind of glad they went to that. Obviously, we talked about it a little bit with Colson Loveland. He went earlier. Warren, everybody kind of felt like was the guy for the Colts just because he can do a little bit of everything. And an offense that needs people to do a little bit of everything when they don't have a super consistent quarterback play. I think Warren is a nice pick. Again, you're trying to develop a young QB. You got to get as many weapons on that team as possible. We just saw – I had high hopes for some of their other tight ends. It hasn't worked out. And their tight ends were – really bad last year. I mean, really bad. If you watch Colts games, you're like, I mean, guys were dropping balls all over the place, and they were doing no favors for their team. So they needed someone. Warren at 14, a little high for a tight end, but I thought it was a really good pick, especially if he can keep developing. He should be a guy that's ready to come in and play right away. Jonathan Taylor announced the JT picking JT at the draft, which I thought was pretty cool. I thought he seemed like a guy they would be all over. Chris Ballard loves the edges. He loves edge rushers. They lost a couple guys in the offseason. He wants to run a rotation. He's not just going to put 2 guys out there and let them pin their ear back all day. He's going to rotate. So I think JT second round was a really nice pick. Justin Whaley, people are like, "Ooh, is that a little early for him?" Again, Colts, they love Big Ten players. They watched him play a bunch of times on film when they were scouting other guys, and he just was one of those guys, a playmaker, hard-nosed dude, also runs a 4.4. They needed cornerback help. I thought that was a nice pick, even if a lot of people thought it was maybe a hair early for him. I think they decided they wanted him, and they weren't going to take the chance they missed out on him. So I like that. I like that pick. Jalen Travis out of Iowa State, I think he's a Minnesota guy. Really nice backup in the 4th round. They've done a phenomenal job of taking like 3rd and 4th and 5th round linemen and having those guys work out and be well with them. So I thought that was a nice pick. DJ Giddens, I got into it with a couple of Colts people, not getting into a little friendly banter back and forth the other day. I had a lot of other guys I like better than DJ Giddens in that 5th round that I would have preferred they take. Now, with me saying that, Giddens showed out at the combine. Really nice C's, really nice, size. He ran a really nice 40. I didn't think he played as fast on tape as his 40 time was, but he is going to be a really nice, solid backup to JT. I was thinking they were going to maybe go more of the Woody Marks angle and try to take more of a pass receiving third down back that could kind of be their Neon Hines that they used to have. They really haven't had that guy since Hines left in a trade. So I thought they might go that route, though I do like Giddens. If they have to full-time go to Giddens because of a JT injury, that probably makes more sense. I think that he's more of a JT type player that way. So that was fine. Riley Leonard, as soon as it happened, I said, I don't know why didn't think about this. It made it completely sense that Riley Leonard went to the Colts, Kyle McCord went to the Eagles, and Will Howard went to the Steelers. I mean, I should have seen those coming across the board. Those were exact landing spots for all those guys who are from those areas. Those coaching staffs, each one of those teams saw those guys play a ton in their careers.
Yep.
So it makes sense. Riley Leonard, a project, but I tell you what, if you're going to get a guy that can run the football, he can run the football.
Yes, he can.
And you get a guy that can develop. There was 2 or 3 years ago, people were talking about him coming out of Duke early and being a top 10 pick. So it didn't materialize with the passing game for him, but he's a great player to put on your practice squad. Hold up, let him learn and be that number 3 QB who could eventually become the number 2, or, if lightning strikes, your number 1. I actually thought that was a good selection in the 6th round. He fits. Well, if you're going to take a quarterback in 6, take a guy that fits your system. He absolutely fits the Colts system. So I thought it was a great pick. Tim Smith, good player out of Alabama, really struggled to get on the field. Just so many good players in front of him. We'll see there. Hunter Wohler out of Wisconsin, absolute Colts pick. Basically taking a guy that's a strong safety that they can move into a small, speedy outside linebacker like EJ Speed was for them. So that makes sense. I wouldn't use those 7th rounders. You usually think, this guy's probably ain't making the team. There's a good shot he actually makes the team and could possibly play.
Yeah, TJ Giddens, I think, is a little bit underrated, man. I think he's a pretty good, pretty good player, pretty damn good player. I think he can go between the tackles. Not much of a receiver, but he can catch the ball in the backfield, like you said.
He's not bad. He needs to work on a little bit. There was quite a few other guys in this class that were much better clear-cut receivers. I just thought the Colts would go more third down receiving back with this pick. Though what I'm saying is, now that I'm re-looking at it, Devin Neal was my gold standard pick. I wanted to take Devin Neal because I'm like, oh man, if JT gets hurt, Devin Neal would be phenomenal on this team. Giddens and Neal were very close for me as player types. I just like Neal better. But Giddens, if you're looking at going, hey, if JT goes down for 8 games, what player do we want that's most similar to him? I think Giddens is that type of player at this point in the draft.
Yeah, Giddens is like 6 foot, like 215. I think he ran he just missed it. I think he had like a 4.41 or a 4.42 or something like that at the combine.
Yeah, ran a super. I mean, I honestly thought he was more of like a 4.49, 4.5 guy. And when he put up like a low 4.4, I was like, I'm like, dang, dude, he's faster than I thought he was. So, and like I said, he's got good size. If you watched him on film, he didn't look as big as he actually is. He's like right at that 6 foot, 215, like where I didn't think he looked that big watching games, but I'm like, man, I was like, he's got better size than I remember.
He's not quite JT, but he's like the JT light kind of thing.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you had to replace him, he's much more of a suitable replacement in production wise than the guys they had the last couple of years.
Yeah, right. Yeah, absolutely. So okay, now we get to my boy Sunshine. The only reason I like the Jaguars because of Trevor Lawrence, but they did add some players here. They got an A- Jacksonville Jaguars. I'm hoping the Bears move to Arlington Heights and the Jaguars move down in downtown Chicago into Bears Old Stadium. That's kind of my wish casting for what the NFL is going to do next couple of years. Jaguars don't really have a fan base down in South Florida or North Florida anyway. And I think Shad Khan said, hey, if the Bears move out, we want in. So here's
the thing is, people got to realize Shad Khan's businesses are in Illinois, in Champaign. Yep. He's a U of I grad. He's an Illinois guy. So if he could get his team back in Illinois where all his operations are, I think he would love that.
And just an FYI, the state of Illinois is widening the roads up by 53 that are going into Arlington Heights right now as we speak. I'm not sure if that's just coincidence or whatever. It need to be done for a long time is what all the neighbors say, but when things like that happen, when there's smoke, there's fire kind of thing. So if the Bears do move on to Arlington Heights, I would gladly watch Sunshine at Soldier Field, even though it's a terrible place to tailgate. I'd definitely go there. But anyway, what's the Jacksonville Jaguars team needs, JT?
Yeah, so the Jags came in. They needed D-line help. Cornerback and safety were not their strong suit. They got beat up pretty bad in the passing game last year. And then obviously T-Law, me and you have a lot of T-Law. Got to get help on the O-line. And they lost some guys in the passing game. So adding wide receiver was another thing that was on the list.
Yeah, well, they ended up trading up, spending a lot to get not as much as people would think, but they traded up and they got what is considered probably the best all-around athlete in college football. Probably what some people say is the number one receiver and the number one cornerback in college, with Travis Hunter from Colorado. You love him. He's your boy. So, I mean, he went to my team, and Jackson and our boy is going to throw to him. So that's going to be good. He'll probably play a lot of, some receivers, some package. I'll let you talk about him, but cornerback, Caleb Renshaw from Tulane, guard Wyatt Mullen from West Virginia, running back Brychell Tootin from Virginia Tech, linebacker Jack Kaiser from Notre Dame. Let's go Irish. Round 6, linebacker Jalen McLeod from Auburn. Round 7, Ruane Lane from Navy. Center Johan Mohim from USC. And running back LaQuint Allen from Syracuse. Day 1 grade A-, day 2 grade A-, day 3 grade B. I mean, right from the get-go, I don't know how you get a just because they made all the trades and they gave us some draft capital, like we that's kind of the theme for this show, losing value in your trades because you make future trades. But I mean, you can't pass up Travis Hunter, right?
I know people felt like they gave a lot. I mean, it was a first rounder. Obviously they moved up 3 spots, gave up their first rounder next year, gave up a second rounder this year, and I think it was one other pick, if I'm correct. I don't have it sitting right in front of me. A lot of people thought it was a lot, but to me, I thought Travis Hunter was the best player in this draft. I think he's a generational talent. I know we talk about that and throw that around a little too often, but man, I watched him every game at Colorado, and people were like, "Oh, is he even that good? He just plays a lot." I'm like, you obviously don't watch him if that is your comment to watch after he's played. The dude is unreal. He's a little bit on the small side, 6 foot, about 185. But he's got an extremely long wingspan. He's actually got a longer wingspan than Tyler Warren of the Colts, the tight end, who's 5 inches taller than him. So he's got the wingspan of someone who's 6'5". So as a cornerback, he gets on people. He makes plays. He makes picks that you never see coming because you don't think he can get there. He also has elite speed, elite breaking ability. I mean, the dude is off the charts. Was the number 1 player in the country coming out of high school a few years ago. I mean, just absolute freaking stud. I know people were like kind of ripping him when he won the Heisman, and they said, "Oh, how do you win the Bolitnikoff for best wide receiver? He's not even that good a wide receiver." Now, of course, people started watching him. They're like, "Oh, this dude's freaking elite." I'm like, "Yes, he is. I know. I've been telling everybody that." They're like, "Oh, they just throw him the ball." I'm like, you watch film. He catches everything they throw. He's diving over guys. He's jumping above guys. He's coming back, catching shoestring, shoestring catches, with a guy all over him. He's unreal. The people that have not watched Travis Hunter play, when they see him in the pros, they're going to get, it's going to be a shock. They're going to be like, holy crap, I didn't realize this guy was this good. He's freaking really good. I think they're going to play him a ton on offense. I really do. I think people that are worried about taking him in fantasy, I don't think you should be worried about taking him in fantasy. I think he's going to play a ton of offense, and he's athletic enough to play slot or cover corner in the NFL. They can get him in. He can play both sides.
You were doing the coverage, but the NFL, the Jaguars came out and said they're using primarily as wide receiver and packages on defense. So He's going to play wide receiver.
Yeah, I'm not worried about him at all. Injury would be the only concern about whether he can hold up. But I think he can play both ways, man. I think he can play both ways. I think it's the move. You gave up a lot, but if you think he's the best player in the draft, which I think he's the best player in the draft, I thought it was a smart move for the Jags. And selfishly, I didn't want to see him on the Browns, and I also like T-Law. And I like Brian Thomas. So I actually think this elevates Brian Thomas and T-Law. I don't think it hurts Brian Thomas at all, because now I think you have 2 absolute studs for T-Law to light up. I think it's going to be fantastic. If they can keep T-Law healthy and upright, I think that's going to be exciting Jags offense. And now, selfishly, I get to watch them once a year when they play the Colts every game, every season. So I'm pumped about that. My son already came out. He had his Travis Hunter Heisman shirt on today. wore it to school, and he came home and he said, Dad, I get to go to the Jags game, right? I'm like, absolutely, dude. So he's already asking me. He's like, when's the Jags Colts game? I want to go see Travis Hunter play. So my son's 11 and he knows. So like Travis Hunter's a champ. I know I talked to him about it a lot there. I think the sky's the limit. I think he could be insanely good. I really do. Ransaw, cornerback, Tulane, super athletic, fast, good numbers. Maybe a little high there for a lot of people, but obviously they liked him, so they went there. Milloon from West Virginia, solid guard play. Tootin. So here's the thing is, if you really look at this draft, the Jaguars went RAS score. So people that don't know that as relative athletic score, they went to that usually is showing that you are a top-end athlete. They went for the guys that absolutely balled out at the combine. Like everybody that just put up insane RAS scores, they took. So Travis Hunter did not go to the combine, but if he would have tested out of the, off the charts. So Rachel Tootin from Virginia Tech, 4th round pick. Really interesting guy, was at a smaller school, eventually transferred to Virginia Tech, had some injuries, cost him some games, but he basically won almost in an incredible running back group. He won almost every competition at the scouting combine. Ran like a 4.32, I think it was 40 at like 206 pounds. So he's not tiny. Usually you get guys running that faster, like 175, 180. So the fact that he is like right around that 5'10", 5'11", 205, 206, 7 pounds, he's impressive, super fast guy. He's a home run hitter. He had a couple games over 200 yards at Virginia Tech last year. So the guy can be a workhorse. He's not just a home run hitter only. So I think that's a very interesting pick there in the 4th. Especially for fantasy purposes, he's moved way up list, John. Yeah. I mean, I saw Tootin like mid to late 3rd round, early 4th round pre-draft. Now he's like end of the 1st round, beginning of the 2nd round. People are taking him. It might be a little high for me, but top of the 4th round for running back in this class, to me, is basically he's a 3rd round pick to me.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with that. The other guys on defense, I'm not going to really talk about them. They're okay. LaQuinn Allen, I thought, was a phenomenal pick in the 7th round. I love LaQuinn Allen. He was the guy that I thought if the Colts were going to wait on running back, LaQuinn Allen would have been the perfect guy to take. Because LaQuinn Allen is like guy, ran for 1,000 yards, is good between the tackles, finds the end zone, and he has a great receiving profile. To me, Rashard Smith, LaQuinn Allen, and Woody Marks were the 3 best receiving running backs in this class.
Yeah.
And you saw at Syracuse, they moved him out. They put him one-on-one with linebackers. They put him in trips formations in the bunch. I mean, they moved him all over the place. It wasn't like he was just catching swing passes on dump downs out of the backfield. So LaQuinn Allen, another guy, if he would have tested athletically better, I think he goes higher. Because again, he was a guy that was like running the high 4.5s, wasn't jumping out of the gym, anything like that. It was like they kind of went the opposite of Tootin. So both those guys played in the ACC. They went Tootin, who went off the charts, and then they took Allen, who was the guy who was ultra productive his entire college career. So, I mean, over 1,000 yards, multiple seasons, ton of career catches, a lot of touchdowns. Really solid player for Syracuse. I think even as a 7th rounder, I was surprised he went the 7th. I actually had him as a top 10 back in this class for me, just for his pure ability and what he can do. I think he's phenomenal. I think we can see Tootin and Allen possibly being the 2 guys here in 2 years that are the 2 running backs for the Jags, and Etienne and Tank Bigsby gone. I could see both these guys moving in and taking over those spots for them. I really like both these running backs. Offensively, I tell you what, I think the Jags are going to be super fun to watch in fantasy this year. I think they're going to be super fun to watch. Brian Thomas Jr., who was, we talked about it last year. I saw him at the combine last year, and I was like, oh, John, I'm in love. I'm like, I think he's my number 3 wideout. I'm like, he is awesome. I'm like, I loved everything about him. Travis Hunter, I think, again, is absolutely elite athlete. I think those guys are going to be great. Tootin and Allen, 2 guys that do different stuff, but are both good in their own right. We just got to keep T-Law healthy, baby. This is the breakout year. T-Law with Hunter and BTJ, we are going to break out. And then Britton Strange is going to get a shot to be the man at tight end. So I'm excited to see this Jags offense, especially for fantasy purposes.
I'm hoping that it's one of these, like when the teams have roster cuts, a really good receiver gets thrown to free agency after this, and the Jaguars pick him up to replace. I mean, not that De'Ami Brown's absolutely terrible, but he's not good. I mean, he's a good like third, like a fourth receiver. But
dude, John, I just thought of this. It just hit me.
Go ahead,
Keenan Allen. What if you take an old Keenan Allen who could just take these young guys under his wing and just be that guy? He's not going to put up 100 catches anymore, but he's just going to be that guy that gets you that crazy hard third down. He just earns it. God, he would kind of be a nice little addition.
Oh my goodness,
to the Jags. Great. I like that. It literally just popped in my head. I was like, oh my God. I was like, Keenan Allen would be great.
I was just kind of wondering, like, who's going to take up the middle of the field? Because they got two outside guys, and not that I'm a humongous. I wanted Evan Ingram to stay here and just kind of chew up the middle of the field too. But Britton Strange, I mean, a lot of people love him. Yeah, a lot of people love him, thinking that he's going to be it's his time to shine. But if you can get Travis Hunter and Brian Thomas on the outside with Keenan Allen, just making perfect route runner right in the middle of the field to open everything up for these running backs too, man. Yeah, I guess that would be great. It's a great vision.
I mean, he could just get those tough catches across the middle. Everybody's worried about those dudes burning down the field, taking off the top, and you just get Keenan Allen, boop, 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 just making those catches. Everybody's like, oh, and then, all right, Jags, get on it. Think about Keenan Allen, bring him in.
Jamie, Hunter dropped to 109 in one draft. To me, that's good.
Dude, I think that's stealing. That's stealing at 109. I'm in a couple IDP drafts, and I actually skipped on Ashton GT to take Hunter 101 in an IDP league.
The earliest I see here, Jamie says he took Hunter at 105. I saw him go at 102 and 104 in the drafts I did this morning. So
102, 103, 104 has been pretty consistently that I've seen. Like I said, the only time he's jumped up higher than that is I've taken him once, and I've seen somebody else take him 101 in an IDP league where you can play him on defense.
Yeah, Jeremy says he'll send us both free Travis Hunter jersey. I'm not a jersey guy.
You send me a jersey. John doesn't really do jersey. I love jerseys. I wore my Travis Hunter Colorado jersey during the first round of the live draft coverage. My son is real pissed about it. He wants a Travis Hunter jersey, but I haven't been able to find a small kid size one. Oh, you got to get me one for my son. He's like a youth large or like adult small. He would be pumped to get a Travis Hunter jersey and make his. I'd give it to him for his birthday. He'd lose his mind.
You have to wait till Hunter picks the number because I made the mistake getting Roshan custom with number 32. Yeah, you got to do what you got to do.
I think Hunter's going to end up being 12, but we got to see about that. It looked like when he had a press conference the other day, he was holding up a number 12 jersey, which is what he wore in college. So we'll see if that actually is what happened. But hey, you traded up and you get enough for him. He's the Heisman winner. I think he gets whatever number he wants, right?
Yeah, absolutely. For sure. All right, well, that's enough for today. We've been talking for an hour and 52 minutes. This was a great show. I wouldn't care if we did 32 teams and went this show on for 5 hours. I mean, I love doing this stuff. This draft kind of like this draft evaluation stuff is right up my alley. We left off on the Jaguars, so we'll come back around.
We'll come back and knock out the rest of them this week. Well, we've got what do we got? About a little less than half the league left. We can talk a little more fantasy strategy after we do the other teams. We're good. We're about halfway through, John. We'll pump it out later this week.
I'd like to thank Chad Reuter for putting out this list. Laying it out for everybody.
Go check him out. NFL.com. Really nice site.
NFL.com. On X, it's Chad Reuter. ChadReuter. He laid out this real good on NFL Network. The teams, the pick, the position, the player with a link to it, and all the teams after. And then he has the day 1, day 2, and day 3 grades. This guy's got real good work. That's why we kind of use this stuff right here today. But I want to give credit where credit's due, because without guys like this kind of putting this stuff so easy just for us to unfold on air, it makes our job so much easier, our life so much easier, and it makes it so much fun. So thanks for tuning in, Dynasty Evaluation Show. For all the people who did tune in, much appreciated. So we will talk to you later. But yeah, JT gets 2 jerseys and John gets 0. There you go. Well, I'm like a 17X anyway, so it would be like 3 jerseys for me, just ordering one. Like, So JT DM me, and yeah, you got all that stuff. So thanks a lot, everybody, for watching the show. Dynasty Evaluation. We'll finish up this really soon to get the rest of this coming out. And then I think Thursday, we're going to try and do a recap of what we drafted and kind of see where we went right, where we went wrong on our pre-draft evaluation. So stick around. Thanks for everybody watching the Dynasty Evaluation show, and we will see you later. Have a good one. Have a good night.